Prince Harry's been in Angola this week, you know, following in the footsteps of Princess Diana. What's his trip all about, and is it any more than a beige imitation?
Prince Harry's solo visit to Angola, once poised as a noble mission, is quietly slipping into awkward territory. What began as a high-profile trip took an unexpected turn when Angolan officials turned down his personal request for luxury lodging and greeted him not as a royal, but as an ordinary guest. On July 15th, he met President João Lourenço. No red carpet, no grand ceremony, just a modest welcome with little fanfare. By the next day, Harry was standing in a modest village classroom, reciting landmine safety tips in carefully practiced Portuguese to children who've grown up knowing the scars of war all too well. The polished narrative his team had hoped to shape began to unravel, outmatched by the raw honesty of Angola's response.
He's been patron of it since about 2019, so it's not his first trip to Angola, but the difference this time is that he's going to be walking the exact route that his mother Diana did in 1997.
On the surface, the trip had all the right intentions. The plan was straightforward: connect with communities near former conflict zones, support the Halo Trust's educational outreach, and honor the powerful legacy of Princess Diana's 1997 landmine campaign. But underneath the noble optics, there was something more, a quieter, more personal mission. For Prince Harry, this wasn't just about humanitarian work. It was a chance to reclaim a sense of global relevance, to prove that he could still make an impact without the weight of royal titles or the shadow of controversy. Yet behind the scenes, things told a different story. According to multiple confirmed reports from Angola's Ministry of Hospitality and Tourism, his team had requested 5-star accommodations and diplomatic-level treatment well before he even set foot in the country.
And they were absolutely a blockbuster sort of revelation, the fact that she was in such a dangerous area, and it was so profound and brave of Diana to do this, and of course it led to an international ban on landmines. So the fact that he's doing the same walk, he's very nostalgic, and look, it is a bit of a carbon copy of what his mother did. But
the request came with a long list of expectations: a presidential suite at one of Luanda's top hotels, private dining access, a local security team assigned exclusively to him, and transportation with full state-level clearance. But Angolan officials, though polite and professional, drew a firm line. Unlike the royal treatment Harry had often received elsewhere, this time the response was measured and clear. He would be given standard accommodations, no special perks, no elevated status. Their reasoning, shared with careful diplomacy, was simple. It was a matter of policy, not personality.
Once the king's passed, I think that'd be even more difficult for there to be that reconciliation.
I agree. I mean, it's a conversation he has to drive, he has to extend that olive branch, and he has to make peace with his father, because as you say, once
Harry wasn't there in any official role. He held no government position, no diplomatic title. For this visit, he was simply a civilian guest, representing a non-governmental organization. And in Angola, that made all the difference. He would be treated with respect, but no exceptions. Just like any other charity affiliate working on the ground, he'd receive no extra layers of security beyond what Halo Trust provided. No special use of government resources, and perhaps most telling of all, no luxury suite. Just a standard room, the kind typically offered to aid workers and development partners doing their part in the field.
Cutting him any slack in that department as well. He's learned to operate within the royal framework without his younger brother for all sorts of reasons, and that's a very sad situation for the brothers, but Harry really has to patch things up with his father, as you say.
Now,
since stepping away from his role as a senior royal, Harry has been navigating a delicate balance caught somewhere between public figure and private citizen. His choices around security, travel, and lodging have often stirred debate. Should the British state still carry some responsibility? Do royal privileges still follow him, or have they faded with his title? These questions linger unresolved. Not just because they're politically tricky, but because even now, no one, not even Harry himself, seems completely certain where the lines are drawn.
Odie's wedding, what's happened here?
So Brodie Jenner is a pro surfer and he got married at the weekend. Now Kendall and Kylie Jenner, of course, are his half-sisters. They share the same father, Caitlyn Jenner, and they did not attend.
The moment Harry touched down, it was clear this visit wouldn't echo the grandeur of his royal past. There was no welcome on the tarmac, no waiting motorcade, no lineup of dignitaries to greet him. When President João Lourenço met with him, in Luanda, it was brief and respectful, more a gesture of politeness than ceremony. The exchange was simple, stripped of titles, formality, and all the usual diplomatic flair.
Make the wedding about them in sort of true Kardashian fashion, but it's really more about a decades-long feud between Caitlyn's ex-wives. Of course, there's Brodie's mother, Linda Thompson, and there's Kylie and Kendall's mother.
It was the kind of meeting any foreign guest supporting a humanitarian cause might receive respectful, but routine. A senior Angolan official later explained that the scaled-back treatment wasn't personal. It reflected a broader shift in how the country handles international visits. We've seen too many celebrities come with good intentions only to leave more headlines than lasting impact, the official said. We welcome their presence, but we won't reshape national protocol just to serve a public image. And with that mindset, Harry's request for elevated accommodations was considered and ultimately turned down.
The girls decided to sort of quietly omit themselves from the spectacle that was the wedding. Caitlyn, of course, attended because it is her son getting married. But yeah, less about an RSVP situation, more about trying to keep the peace. I think Kylie very much sees herself in the Kardashian.
In many ways, the denial was a subtle diplomatic message, one that expressed gratitude for his support, but stopped short of special treatment. It honored the legacy of his mother, but made no room for inherited status. He was given a seat at the table, just not at the head of it. The decision to pass on the five-star suite wasn't really about comfort, it was about optics, about placement. It reflected how Angola chose to define Harry's presence, not as royalty, but as one of many humanitarian visitors, part of the effort, not above it.
There's their brother, of course, who's very angry about everything and tends to blame Chris for a lot of the drama. Of course, he's going to side with his own mother. But as you say, it wouldn't be a Kardashian by extension wedding unless there was some kind of drama.
It happens in every family, though.
It's something that plays out in every family, just on a much larger stage. Angola delivered its message with quiet clarity. We respect your mission, not your monarchy. For Harry, whose identity has always been tightly woven into public expectation, this was a defining moment. Stepping away from royal life was meant to be a path toward freedom, a break from tradition. But that freedom comes with trade-offs. Without an active title, without the institution of the crown behind him, his presence no longer carries the same diplomatic weight. And as Angola made clear, not every nation feels compelled to extend ceremonial honors when there's no official role to honor. It wasn't a snub, it was a reality check.
Doesn't it? Now, speaking of, there's been plenty of coverage and commentary around the Sanchez-Bezos wedding, and even Sarah Jessica Parker of Sex and the City fame, she reacted to that Vogue front cover.
Lauren Sanchez Bezos gracing the cover of Vogue. Hello, lover.
Quite the opposite, in fact. Angola's approach to Harry's visit was respectful, measured, and firmly aligned with international protocol. But in doing so, they quietly exposed the delicate space Harry now occupies. He's still famous. Enough to draw attention, but no longer official enough to warrant deference. His name still opens doors, but fewer than it once did. And as that name begins to lose its sway, a deeper question emerges when the title fades and the red carpets stop rolling out. What remains for him to stand on?
I mean, why shouldn't she? I was enough. Why shouldn't she as well have the opportunity?
She held it in well, didn't she?
It was a quiet blow his hotel request declined without much explanation. Harry's team quickly scrambled, working behind the scenes to adjust the logistics. Private security had to be arranged on their own terms. Transport routes were reworked to reflect his downgraded status. For those who know how these visits usually go, the whole thing felt strange, awkward even. And not just because of protocol. It was a moment that made things clear. The world sees Harry differently now. He moves more like a private citizen, carrying only the fading glow of royal influence. And not everyone is willing to pretend that glow still holds power. Back in 1997, Princess Diana walked through a live minefield in Angola. She didn't need cameras chasing her or royal fanfare. She simply went because it mattered.
Well, and look, she's not going, no matter her thoughts on the wedding and the cover of Vogue, she's not going to take on the wife of one of the richest men in the world, is she, and sort of be rude to her, which was good to see that she was being quite diplomatic. And of course, SJP herself knows the value of a Vogue cover. It's not just about the...
She didn't just bring the world's eyes, she brought weight, the kind that bends political will. Diana's visit wasn't crafted as part of a personal redemption story. It had a mission: to push the Ottawa Treaty on landmine bans past the finish line. And it did. Years later, in a small classroom in a rural village, Harry stood before a group of children, echoing safety phrases in Portuguese: "Stop, go back, tell your elders." His words were meant to reinforce the mine awareness training already in place. It was thoughtful, even touching. But to some, it came off as overly polished. Local teachers, those who had been quietly doing this work long before cameras or royalty showed up, stood at the back, observing. One of them later shared their thoughts anonymously with a local Angolan outlet.
Vogue and writes for Vogue and has her doomed first wedding with Mr. Big in the Vogue issue as well, with Candace Bergen as her editor, Edith. A great episode for that. But yeah, very diplomatic, and I don't think she'll be off their Christmas card list anytime soon, which is probably good for her.
One teacher quietly noted that the children seemed more thrilled by the cameras than the man in front of them. They didn't really know who he was. To them, it was just a break from the usual routine. "We run these sessions every week." The teacher said, "What happens when the cameras leave? What's left behind? When the shine of royalty fades, what purpose does he truly serve?" These aren't harsh questions, they're honest ones. Because real humanitarian work isn't about moments or appearances. It builds slowly, over time. It asks for presence, understanding, and above all, humility.
No, I thought she handled that very, very well. And still in the US, and Basketball Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal, well, he's had a bust-up with former NFL star Robin Griffin III. What's this all over?
So this is interesting. So we've got Shaquille O'Neal threatening to...
Angolan officials placing Harry in the Standard Lodge wasn't an insult. It was a quiet message: meet this moment as an equal. His team hasn't offered any public response, no press releases, no spin, no attempts to reshape the story. But behind closed doors, sources say the experience left Harry feeling smaller, not humiliated, just reminded.
Really, over two female sort of basketball legends who apparently dislike each other immensely, and there's been a lot of racism accusations around there. There's been terms used which have been quite offensive. I'm not going to repeat them here, but...
It was a quiet but clear reminder that the road Harry walks now, though independent, is also uncertain. Respect isn't something passed down like an heirloom. It has to be earned again and again. Adding to the unease is the unresolved issue of Queen Elizabeth II's sealed will. More than 2 years have gone by since her passing, yet its contents remain hidden from the public. Whispers continue about titles possibly withheld, honors reassigned, and what, if anything, was left behind for Harry and Meghan. The questions stretch beyond money. They touch on legacy, identity, and whether the institution still sees them as part of the fold.
Truth, and look, I always get very concerned when a celebrity says that, because it doesn't actually mean they're operating from a factual basis. It's more about their interpretation of the facts. So it's a bit of a mess. It's got beyond a bit of a social media spat between these two and protecting the two female stars.
This lingering uncertainty follows Harry wherever he goes. Without clarity on what the Queen's final wishes truly granted or withheld, his position floats in limbo. He's royal by blood, but beneficial in practice. Recognizable to world leaders, yet no longer formally received. And in countries like Angola, where protocol holds real weight, that distinction isn't just symbolic, it defines the entire experience.
Rouse or stoking up rivalry between female players when you have no place to do so.
And funny, when you've had all that media training compared to the last story we've just talked about, these guys are not green, and it's amazing the scuffle that they found themselves in. And lastly, big celebrity news out of the UK yesterday with former Harry Potter star Emma Watts.
This is the new reality where hotel suites aren't guaranteed, where warm handshakes stand in for royal fanfare, and where value is earned through action, not ancestry. If Harry hopes to be seen as a true humanitarian, not just a reflection of legacy, then visits like this have to mean more. They must be rooted in genuine connection, real impact, and quiet humility. Angola offered him that space not with spotlight or ceremony, but with something more meaningful, a chance to listen, to learn, and to honor the moment for what it was. The only question now is whether Harry sees that experience as a mirror to grow from or a shield to hide behind.